Okay, so the topic I'm digging into today is basically deep in the internet archives. This topic and phenomena happened many, many years ago, but I still can't stop thinking about it all these years later. It was the "I got rejected from Oxford" video trend. Now, obviously, other elite universities got used in this trend. There were "I got rejected from Cambridge" videos, there were "I got rejected from Harvard" videos, but the Oxford rejection videos is rather renowned, and from what I could see looking back on it, they were the most popular one. For those unfamiliar, the content is rather self-explanatory. The video features a YouTuber either live reacting to their rejection the moment they receive or open the email or letter, and they're usually always incredibly emotional videos, with the YouTuber in question crying at the news because they were excited and they got rejected. Now, a few of these creators made multiple videos on the subject, either self-reflecting on their rejection months or even years later, and in one case reflecting on their rejection after successfully receiving an offer at the university when they applied again, in this case for a master's. Now, what I find fascinating about this trend as someone older than all of these creators is sort of the generational shift in hiding one's rejections to almost advertising the rejection. You see, back in my day, most of us kept our results completely secret from even our friends and classmates, and we didn't talk about what universities we applied for or got rejected by. I've always kept my results pretty secret, both good and bad, and I kept all my rejections secret, of which I had many. So the idea of telling a friend or classmate that someone was rejected from any university, let alone Oxford, would have been mortifying. Obviously, completely undeservedly so. It's not that big a deal. But when you're a kid, it's a huge deal. Because really, in telling people, we feared being mocked and gossiped about, which again, kids do. Yet in these cases, what I found fascinating is that the comments in these videos are overwhelmingly positive, with the commenters cheering on the creator, pumping some kindness back into the system when the creator is at their lowest and most vulnerable moment. Or they relate to the creator and they feel less alone in their own rejection. So why did the failing to get into Oxford become a genre of YouTube content? What caused this shift from my generation to theirs, in which telling about rejections was okay, where in mine it was really deeply shameful? And why were these videos so popular? The reason I'm talking about this is because these videos were a major feature of the academic sector on social media, and part of making academia an aesthetic online. But why were the rejections just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the success stories? Is it about academic prestige, relatability, or the rise of academic storytelling? Now, obviously, disclaimer, just now I will have made references and put clips on the screens of a couple of creators who made these videos, but I'm using them solely as case study examples. If those creators just so happen to watch this video and see themselves, I want to clarify, this is in no way aiming to criticise you, poke fun, or make a negative light on any of it. It's all love here. I hope you don't mind me using you as case studies, because you kind of led this trend and I find it fascinating. And obviously, additionally, for those watching this video, this isn't a negative drama or critique video, so only extend kindness in the comment section down below. Also, people are probably clicking on this video and going, oh, clickbait, you got rejected from Oxford. It's not about that. Well, disclaimer, I did also technically get rejected from Oxford, though my rejection is very different from these creators, because I knew from the get-go I'd never get in. But before we go any further, I am inserting myself here, makeup free, once again, to talk about today's wonderful sponsor, which is Foreo, and more specifically, the Foreo FAQ 202 mask, which is a new generation of LED face masks that I've been using for the past couple of months. It's always important to me when I'm working with companies that they make sure that they are cruelty-free and vegan, so I was very excited to have the opportunity a couple of months ago to work with FAQ's 202 mask. This lightweight, flexi-fit silicone mask is wireless, making it so easy to wear whilst you're multitasking. I can do it whilst I'm doing my editing, with my video editing at work in the first thing in the morning, which is now when I tend to use it most, but I can also do it when I'm reading in the evening. Now, red LED light therapy reduces inflammation and stimulates the production of collagen, and with 8 different wavelengths, including NIR, this mask helps tackle signs of aging and other skin conditions, from redness. It also helps skin look less dull, and it minimises the appearance of pores, reducing fine lines and wrinkles, and makes skin appear smoother, and also fewer sunspots. This whole thing is controlled entirely by an app. So I tend to always stick to either red, and I change, so there's a little timer down here to tell me, so I've been doing this for like 7 minutes at the moment. I've just been working. Also, I often change to purple, and I do a few minutes on each of them, so I can just change the colours via the app and change to yellow if I want to target reducing redness, because I suffer with redness, Or if you don't want to do it manually, there are treatments that you could do. So it either has music, as you can hear in the background, but you can turn the music off if you don't want it, and it gives me 5 minutes of each one. And it gives me a timer there, and it just turns itself off, or you can do it manually. So if you'd like to check out FAQ 202 and other Foreo bestsellers, click the link in the description box down below and use my code to get an extra 30% off all Foreo products, and the code is stackable, so you can get an extra 30% off already discounted items as well, which is excellent. It wasn't like I was a serious contender for the university. I wanted to go to Oxford as a teenager because I was kind of pushed into that direction quite forcefully, so from a young age, but I knew I was far too stupid because my predicted grades were so low, and I never got into university the first time round. I made a whole video about my failure to get into university. What I found fascinating about these videos is that I had so much painful shame about failing to get into these universities, particularly the second time, because I applied for my master's as well. But I never talked about applying to anyone. Like, it wasn't something I talked about on social media, and I was doing social media at the time. But I did make the mistake of telling one girl, because she was applying for Cambridge, and I thought I was in the safe space, and I was like, oh, I've had a go at going for Oxford. Massive mistake, worst mistake. Again, this is what I feared when I was younger. Every day when we met up, I'm not going to give any details about who this person was, but every time we saw each other, the first thing she asked was like, have you heard back from Oxford yet? Have you heard back from Oxford yet? And then during the day when we were spending time together, because there were breaks in which we interacted, she would literally go, have you checked your phone? Have you got a message from Oxford yet? Because she had gotten to Cambridge. And after a 3-week period of this becoming our only interaction, I kind of just had a moment where I was like, isn't it kind of obvious I haven't gotten in, okay? Because it was just really hounding. Now, whilst I'm aware that Oxford and Cambridge have a reputation abroad, the culture in British schooling systems around these universities is pretty toxic in my opinion, and it's certainly a sore point for many people. There is a superiority culture that bubbles up when students are applying for the university, which I'm sure is the same elsewhere in different universities of established reputations in those countries. And Oxford, I think, is the most tossed around from my experience. But evidently, the Oxford dream is not just a British dream. I've done a whole video about dark academia and the rise and cultural shift in pretentious aestheticism, which you can watch up here or, at the end of the video. But this video is sort of a follow-up about the more specific trend of the Oxford dream narrative, which has its ties in class and privilege, particularly in the UK. The Oxford or Oxbridge dream is a dominant one, and it seems to be the one that attracts the most attention here on YouTube, so I'm focusing on that for this video. Now, when I was doing my video on the aesthetic academia on social media, I kind of calculated the median for the most popular study tubers and studygram influencers, and it seemed to be that those were obviously the ones that attended prestigious universities, such as Oxbridge and the Ivy League. So if you put, Cambridge, Yale, Oxford or Harvard somewhere in your thumbnail and title, your content will attract more attention than someone who doesn't, or technically can't. So I calculated the median views for the first 10 videos. I searched when I looked for day in the life of X student, and Oxford University student had 1,231,730 median views compared to the day of the life of a Cambridge student, which had 638,360 median views, and it went down from there. Sorry Yale, you were the least popular, I don't know why, but then it went Harvard and then MIT and then Yale. So evidently the Oxford dream was the highest one. So let's talk about the Oxford dream and why so many people place weight on the acceptance and rejection of this institution. You see, when people imagine attending Oxford, they probably envisage, debating with like-minded people, dining in grand halls with these robes, spending hours in beautiful ornate libraries and walking along the rivers and autumnal kind of vibes. It's beautiful. The city is a wonderful place. And that is the reality for many, but it's more likely the reality depending on your level of privilege. The intellectual struggle is not the only one at the institution. They're all highly academic people there, but there are huge social and financial ones too, and like anywhere else, it's easier to socialise and focus on your studies the more privilege you have. Now, I believe, and this is just my hypothetical theory here, that the cultural weight of Oxford acceptance and rejections in the UK is so immense because it starts in school and by the school. You see, schools in the UK want to garner the best reputation they can possibly get, and one of the easiest and most established ways of getting a good reputation is a high Oxbridge admittance rate. So if you can boast that a large percentage of your students get into Oxford or Cambridge, you're sort of set. And so teachers and head teachers push us this dream of Oxbridge. And thus, if you encourage children to go for the dream, it will benefit your school because you're winning all the way around. Because even if they don't get into an Oxbridge university, they will likely have pushed themselves hard enough in chasing that dream to get excellent grades that can also serve to boost the school's metrics. Now, when looking for discussions on the Oxford dream, I came across a blog, just so happenstance, which kind of opened with the following line, saying, quote, "At 10 years old, I decided to pursue a graduate degree." Is it just me? Or is it actually really weird that we have normalised for 10-year-old little girls to dream about their graduate degree plans? It's so disconcerting, but it's totally the norm, and I know exactly what she means. I know from personal experience that the Oxford narrative was driven into me long before the age of 10 too, because when I took my 11 plus exams, my mother wanted me to only apply for schools which had a high rate of Oxford admittance. And you know, I'm 10 years old being told that if I don't get into certain schools, I will never go to this one university that was dead set on that I had to get to. And obviously, the shame of my academic failure hit very young, as did my hope, because when I failed to get into any of those schools, I was completely written off as, "you are too thick," and my future was kind of hopeless from there. You see, I was told that Oxford would be my only shot at making a name for myself because we didn't have connections or networks like bigger families had. But if I got into Oxford, I was told that I'd be employable for life. No one would reject me, which I think is a similar narrative that is told by many people who go to Oxford and they find out the hard way that's not really the case. And that's where I think a lot of the fear comes from. When people are rejected from Oxbridge, I don't think it's just a broken dream of going to the institution that they're crying over. I genuinely think sometimes it's the fear. There is far too much pressure on young people to get it right, and we're not given many alternative dreams or options. We're told all about this aesthetic solution to all of our problems, the fast track into being successful like Tolkien and Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie, Emma Watson, Lewis Carroll and Hugh Grant. And when I'm saying that, I don't think I could choke up a whiter list of names if I tried. These institutions are obviously inherently white and very privileged, and as such, getting into them is either incredibly verifying if you're already of that class, and thus devastating if you're rejected as such, because it almost makes you feel like you don't fit into your own class. Also, because it's very white and privileged, that opportunity feels incredibly exciting and groundbreaking if you're from a marginalised community. These I Got Rejected from Oxford videos garnered traction around 2018, with 3 notable figures posting about the rejections on video. So I saw users Jack Edward, Ruby Granger and Unjaded Jade. They all garnered close to 400,000 views on those videos. As you can imagine, these creators posted subsequent videos on the topic, such as Jack Edwards talking about his rejection in a Q&A 3 years later, and Ruby Granger talking about her rejection 2 years later. Now, I've seen people try to emulate this trend, and more recent videos in the past couple of years have not garnered the same attraction as they did in 2018, so it seemed like the trend has sort of died out quite quickly. It was kind of like a buzz and then drop. Now, as someone who's obviously really struggled with her PhD and may have to drop out due to financial reasons, the fear of kind of public shaming and mockery has made me want to leave the internet, basically entirely. And so I think these academics are really brave for sharing something that they deem to be a failure incredibly public. And it would almost be really inspiring if I weren't such a cynic. I'm just a miserable cow, okay? I'm afraid it takes a lot for me to feel anything other than dread or apathy. But I can see the appeal to audiences who look up to these academic figures. All of these creators and others are evidently highly intelligent and have cultivated large audiences who admire them for their academia and studiousness. And I suppose the draw of these videos by strangers and followers alike would be both solidarity and perhaps a tint of schadenfreude, because unfortunately, whilst I like to hope it's more the former than the latter, it's the internet. People like to see all people suffer in some way. And the Oxford rejection is sort of a form of social capital, with viewers relating on either side of the scale, from the "I was almost good enough too" versus "the system is broken and rigged against people like me." Though I do wonder how much of these videos was born from a natural bravery to share their experience, or a sense of public pressure as an influencer. You see, many of the figures I discussed seem to have a reputation of being very studious before they made that video, and they had study videos and videos about achieving high grades and things like that. So they built a community around academic success. So maybe they made a passing comment about being excited to apply for Oxford University, which then forced the creator into a corner when they had to confront the truth and share it with hundreds of thousands of strangers. Otherwise, they would face the prying pressure of probing questions about Oxford, which I found out on a micro scale when I stupidly told a colleague I had applied for Oxford, and I never should have told them. And what's possibly quite sad about these videos is that, whilst totally innocent and valid in their own way, their popularity and creation only sort of reinforced the prestige that these universities have. And though they are prestigious universities, they are not the only options for the academically curious and intelligent. To be devastated at not attending these universities and keep pursuing the opportunity to attend them somewhat fortifies the elitism and essential nature of these institutions, and the fatalism of going to another university other than Oxford or Cambridge only hammers in a sense of shame and failure and inadequacy that hundreds of thousands of people around the world feel as well. And it was the same sense of failure, shame and inadequacy which led these creators to make these videos in the first place. But what are your thoughts on the Oxford rejection videos? Did you apply for Oxford? Did you ever tell anyone that you applied for Oxford? I'm now only retelling about people that I applied for Oxford and got rejected, though understandably so. I totally, I know as a more well-rounded adult than where I was being pushed from when I was a child, that I was not Oxford or Oxbridge material. It's funny to me now, the idea that it was such a serious part of my life to the point that it was that bad horrifies me, which is why I'm now writing about it. It's not a real book, I should say that. You know, when you're just writing a book for yourself, there's no publishing deal. It's just like, it's me for myself. It'll only exist as a word format kind of thing. So I always feel like it's too glamorized to say, oh, it's a book. It's not really a book. It's a big document with lots of words in it. But what are your thoughts on the whole concept of this kind of prestigious university institution experience online, and why people are so fascinated by these particular universities and watching content creators from these universities? And is there a weird drive where a lot of people want to go to these universities now to almost bolster a social media gathering at the same time? Not just, there's more threads to this rope kind of thing, and that's what I find fascinating. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you as always for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I also have a second channel and a podcast, all of them linked down below in the description box. And thank you to my patrons as always for making this possible, and I will see you soon for another video. And remember, be happy and healthy, and books save lives, so keep reading.